Politics in the Gilded Age with Sophia,
Daphne,
Kira,
Meredith,
and Owiana.
What is the Gilded Age?
Mark Twain invented the Gilded Age.
The period was glittering on the surface with corruption underneath.
It was an era of rapid political and economic growth.
Improvements of transportation, communication, and business.
Gilded Age politics was filled with close competitions between the Democrats and the Republicans and was called the third-party system, with the occasional third party involved.
The period lasted from the late 1800s to the early 1900s.
Some important key terms to know are
The era of good stealings, which was a post-Civil War period marked by corruption in the railroad industry, stock market, politics, and judicial system.
Another key term is a graft, which is an illegal use of political influence for personal gain, which is also political corruption.
Another important word to know is patronage, which is the power to control appointments to office or the rights to privileges.
The emergence of political machines in cities served many purposes, such as
they controlled party politics in cities.
They provided services to voters in exchange for political support.
They also had bosses controlling city jobs and business licenses.
It helped immigrants with naturalization, housing, and jobs.
In return, the immigrants gave the political machines votes.
I'm a politician. Who should I vote for?
In this political cartoon, Tammany Hall and the Tweed Ring are represented, and we can see at the bottom where it says who stole the people's money, and then how everybody in the circle is pointing to the person next to them. That's showing that nobody wanted to take responsibility for all the negative impacts that the corruption during this era was having on the people, and instead everyone was pointing a finger to the person next to them.
This is how political machines were organized.
First, on top, the city boss, who controlled the activities of the political party.
Right below the city boss was the ward boss, who worked to secure the vote in all precincts in the ward.
And at the very bottom was the local precinct workers and captain, which gained city support in the city block.
Municipal graft and scandal.
Political bosses fell victim to corruption.
And their loyal voters were not enough.
Political machines used fake names to cast votes, and this benefited them along with individual politicians. Once candidates were in office, political machines practiced graft, which permitted legal activities.
Political machines granted favors to businesses and accepted bribes and kickbacks, which was totally unfair to the smaller businesses that it didn't benefit.
Before 1890, political bosses hired and fired police forces. One scheme charged players an additional $10 million.
Hi, I'm a citizen and I'm seeking employment.
Hi, I'm a political machine, and I'll give you a job working for a construction project for the city if you build the city for more and give me the extra money.
It's a deal.
The Tweed Ring scandal. William Tweed, a Democratic political machine, led the Tweed Ring, which defrauded New York. He was sentenced to 12 years on 120 counts of fraud and extortion and released after only 1 year. He was later arrested again and escaped and was captured.
Corruption plagues the Gilded Age.
First, laissez-faire policies, which meant minimal government intervention.
Second, the spoil system, which awarded government positions based on political loyalty.
Next was election fraud, which ballot box stuffing and voter intimidation led to invalid ballots and just an unfair election.
Corporate influence, which utilized their wealth and resources to manipulate legislation and regulations.
We're a small working class family just trying to make ends meet. But stop! I'm a big business owner and I have all the money and power.
Different political groups.
The stalwarts were Republicans in the 1870s who supported Ulysses S. Grant. They accepted political machines and were challenged by supporters of the civil service reform.
Populist, political party for inflation, federally controlled railroads, phones, and more. They also supported immigration restrictions, and they frustrated workers and farmers. They never won a presidency.
Lastly, the Redeemers, who were white Democrats who used political power to oppress Black community, sought to overthrow radical Republicans.
Big business influence in 1888.
Firstly, financial contributions, which was large corporations making substantial financial contributions to political campaigns, parties, and candidates.
Secondly, lobbying. Corporations employed lobbyists. These people would take part in an organized attempt to influence legislators for the greater good of the corporation.
Third, control of the media. Some businesses controlled newspapers and media outlets, enabling them to share public opinion and suppress criticism of their corporation. Lastly was industrial consolidation. The consolidation of industries such as railroads, steel, oil resulted in large corporations dominating entire sectors of the economy.
This political cartoon highlights how big businesses during the Gilded Age were often seen as more important than some of the other issues of post-war America. The man in the cartoon can be depicted as greedy and unbothered by these other problems he is standing on top of.
Impact.
Politics during the Gilded Age were marked by scandal and corruption.
There was an immense gap in wealth between upper and lower classes.
I'm the lower class and I only make $350 a year.
And I'm the upper class and I can make that in a day.
Dangerous, low-paying jobs led to strikes and the formation of numerous amounts of labor unions, including the Pullman strike and the Homestead strike.
During the Gilded Age, many technological advancements were released at the time.
The Gilded Age marks the rise and fall of the Populist Party.
It foreshadowed the Progressive Era,
which had greater democratization of government,
the expansion of voting rights in order to limit the power of political machines.
This image on the top right shows the Great Railroad Strike.
Timeline of the politics during the Gilded Age.
In the 1870s, the Gilded Age began, the Second Industrial Revolution.
The Compromise of 1877 removed all remaining military forces from former Confederate states and appointed Rutherford B. Hayes as president. This brought peace and the end to the Reconstruction, and also kickstarted Jim Crow. In 1881, President Garfield was assassinated by Charles Guiteau.
In 1883, the Pendleton Civil Service Act forbade presidents from awarding government positions to their supporters.
In 1890, the top 1% of the U.S. population owned 25% of the nation's wealth.
In 1892, the Homestead strike saw steel workers go on strike. They were put down by the state government.
The Panic of 1893 was one of the most severe financial crises in U.S. history. In 1894, there was the Pullman strike, which was a widespread railroad strike and boycott that disrupted rail traffic in the U.S. Midwest due to George Pullman's refusal to give workers higher wages, lower rents, and better working conditions.
1896 marked the end of the People's Party.
In the 1900s, 40,000 miles of railroad tracks were laid out across the country. Additionally, there was the end of the Gilded Age.
Overview.
The Gilded Age was a period of political corruption. Politicians were influenced by political machines and big businesses which had all the power.
Democratic and Republican parties differed in policy.
Legislative agenda was limited by political leadership.
A stale political environment resulted in the emergence of the Populist Party.
Conditions during the Gilded Age led to reform and influenced the Progressive Era.
Thanks for watching!
Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe down below.